Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you're watching. My name is Eugene Okumu, teaching fellow for the Google News Lab in Sub-Saharan Africa. Apologies for the technical hitches that have affected our initial start time of 4 p.m. Now that that is resolved, we are good and ready to go. So today's session, if you've been following the communications we've put out on our Twitter handles, is podcasts. We're looking at justification for using podcasts, how to iterate, how to evaluate, and how to monitor and ensure that you're engaging in an endeavor that is actually beneficial to you as a news organization. So we have been, this is currently our third phase of online trainings, and we have two more to go in December. One on verification, and the other one will be communicated on our Twitter handles closer to the date. But we do hope that you have been getting some benefit out of the offerings that we have been presenting since the start of the year, and now carrying on into the tail end of the year. So as I've mentioned, today's session is on podcasts, and we shall be looking at the presentation shortly. Right, so as I've mentioned, my name is Eugene Okumu, teaching fellow for the Google News Lab. I handle the Sub-Saharan Africa region. My email address is eugenepatrick@google.com. If you should have any questions about today's session, feel free to post them on the public comment section on YouTube, and I will respond to them accordingly. Alternatively, if questions do occur to you after the fact, you can either email eugenepatrick@google.com or newslabsupport@google.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions you have concerning today's session. All right, so a few things to look at before we get into today's session is why Google News Initiative is offering these online trainings, and of course our online platform that's g.co/news trainings for journalists. The motivation behind this is to build and strengthen quality journalism. We're elevating and strengthening quality journalism. We also help news organizations understand the evolving business models, and this is directed at driving sustainable growth. We're also empowering news organizations through technological innovation, of which one of the tools we'll be looking at today is one such innovation that we have created to enable journalists to get good returns on engaging in new trends of information dissemination. To learn more about this, g.co/news training, you will encounter thematic courses that are tailored towards helping you navigate the world of news reporting in a much more simpler way. You're going to learn some new tools and techniques for such elements of storytelling as verification and fact-checking, as well as understanding how people search for information online. And we'll be looking at one of those tools in today's session as well. Right, so the big question is why podcast? A justification for engaging in storytelling through use of audio and video in certain elements. If you look at the lay of the land in as far as podcasts are concerned, we have about 7 podcasts consumed on average by a listener on a weekly basis. You also have about 93% listen to all or most of each podcast episode because podcasts are also being released in a series. And then you have about 54% who are likely to consider brands that advertise on podcasts. And this is just a snapshot of what the lay of the land looks like with respect to podcasts. And then globally, from an advertising perspective, by this year, the projection is that podcasts will account for about 1.2 billion in ad revenue to content producers who look at this as a viable channel for creating content for their listeners, and so advertisers will be placing ads into the podcast creators, and this will account for about 1.2 billion in ad revenue. So this is also a big nod for podcasts and why news organizations ought to consider creating content for them. So the big question, of course, is what to podcast, and it's an important question because even with the traditional online content creation, there's always a question of what to focus on from a user perspective and what your audience is interested in. So equally of importance is understanding what you should use as the basis of the podcasts that you want to create. And so some of the tools that you can right off the mark use to have a better understanding of what people are interested in from a podcast perspective is Google Trends, for example. Google Trends helps you understand how people are searching for content online and by extension, what is most popularly being looked for online. Another platform you can use for ideation is Jamboard. And then the previous online trainings, we have looked at how you can collaboratively work using such platforms as Jamboard. And this is especially important at this point in time where news organizations also have to pivot their operations and have to probably work with a socially distanced newsroom format where you probably don't have your meetings in one room, but you still need to be able to collaboratively come up with ideas for what it is you're going to be serving your audiences. So Jamboard is one of those platforms that can enable you to then ideate at a safe distance, but still get the work done. You can also collaborate with Google Docs, where you're collecting your ideas and probably assigning roles as you go. Then you can also explore popular and trending tabs, and we'll go into some of these shortly. So g.co/trends, this is a good starting point to understand how people are searching for content. And at this juncture, I will open Google Trends and we can see a few things about how to work it so that you're getting the best insights on what people are really keen on searching for online. And so these are still available on our platform, g.co/news training. It will give you insights on trends and what you can expect to find, and as well understand how people are searching for content online using trends. So feel free to head there and find out a few more insights about how you can use trends. A few things to note about the Trends platform that is now on screen is you have a menu to your left. When you click on that, you have a few options. You have Home, Explore, Trending Searches, Year in Search, and Subscriptions. Then you also have a Help feature, and you have the option of sending feedback. Then you can also understand a few things about the privacy and terms. So a quick snapshot of how that looks like. For example, if you have trending searches, these are some of the searches that people are looking at, and you'll have a snapshot of volumes of search or with the respective dates. Depending on what region you're in, you also have the option of real-time search trends. And in this case, our output is by default the United States. So if you click on that, you have a populated list of currently trending searches. This is a slow rollout for the Sub-Saharan Africa region, and so at some point in time, we'll also have this available. But for now, it's available in certain markets. So if we were to, for example, go into Nigeria, and click on that, you'll notice that we don't have real-time search trends, but you have daily search trends. And so this one gives you insights into what people have been searching over the last 7 days. And of course, using filters, you can get these insights much further back than just the 7 days that the platform will usually show you by default. Jumping out of that, if you go into the explore option, here you can compare terms and get to understand how people are searching for content online. So for example, if you look at search topics, you can see what is currently being looked at online. In this case, we're looking at coronavirus, virus infection agent, topics on masks. There's also a topic on TikTok. And then there's Google Classroom topics, and so on and so forth. So you can make comparisons of whatever content you might want to use as the base material for your podcast. And for this, you can have up to 5 different terms. So let's say you want to look at coronavirus. I will pick a topic. Let's say you also want to look at, say, a musician and see whether there's any points of intersection between the topics that you're looking at and the topics that you're interested in. Let's look for one where we also have a topic as opposed to a term. So this is a simple visual of how coronavirus and Burna Boy, for example, compare in relation to each other over the last year, from a worldwide perspective across all categories on the web. So if we want to filter that, we'll say, let's go look at this from a Nigerian perspective. And then rather than the last 12 months, we can filter that to past 30 days. And you can look at different category. For example, let's look at art and entertainment. Perhaps we want to figure out if Burna Boy has had to cancel any shows on account of the coronavirus pandemic, and whether people are searching for information in that sense. And then as you scroll down, you'll notice that there's a geographical visual representation of the comparisons that we're making with the particular graph. So that's what it looks like on the map. And then from a regional perspective, you can look at the bar graphs on your right. You can also filter this from sub-region to city. And if the information is available from a city perspective, it will usually generate. But if it's not, that's okay too. You can go with the default sub-regional visualization that's available. And then you can also look at filters for the coronavirus pandemic by itself and how those compare. Then you also have related queries. So this is also an important section because it tells you, it gives you insights about how people are searching for Burna Boy, and how they're searching for him in relation to other queries. For example, here you'll see Wizkid Made in Lagos, recent album launched, and people are probably looking at Burna Boy and making a comparison of him and Wizkid as well. So that's how you can use trends to better understand what popular search terms are available, so that when you're now creating material for your podcast, you have an idea or a guidance on what people are looking at, and hence you can now stay on topic with Google Trends. Let me just switch back to the presentation. We can carry on. Right, so just a few other things to point out. You'll notice that the graph only goes as far as 100%, and this is because it gives you such interest in indices rather than in absolute figures on account of privacy policies within the company. We cannot give absolute volumes, but we give indices, and as well because of the amount of information that such trends generates. It's also virtually counterproductive to give absolute figures, because there's the challenge of being able to sift through all that data from a user perspective to understand search interests and popularity of certain topics and certain terms. So that's why you only have an index that goes as far as 100%. And as I'd mentioned, you can compare multiple search topics or search terms. In this case, from a user perspective, up to 5. But if you want more than 5, you can reach out to the NewsLab support for the curated search term comparisons. And then you can also download or embed the graphs if you're interested in using them in a story. And you can also either keep it static or keep it dynamic. So depending on what it is you want to do. The next platform for ideation, you can also use Jamboard. Jamboard allows you to collaboratively work on ideation remotely. And at this juncture, I'd like to play for us a short video of how exactly Jamboard works. Right, so that's basically what Jamboard looks like. It allows you to collaboratively rather collaboratively work on creating ideas. And they'll show us a short demo. Right, so this is what Jamboard looks like. If you're accessing it for the first time, this section will generally be blank. But because I've worked on a few things, I have a few examples already on here. But to add your own, it's as simple as clicking on the orange button, bottom right of your screen, and it opens for you slides. So you have a few input options to the left that you can use. You have a pen, you have an eraser, you have a selection cursor. You can add sticky notes, add images, circle points of interest, add text boxes. So for example, you can say, this is my presentation for today. So you can then add a few other elements that you want to include in the presentation. But if you're done, you can then just opt to delete. Say you have the pen tool, then say and perhaps you don't like the look of it, you can simply erase that and keep your slide clean. Or perhaps you're progressing through it and you'd like to add something else. It's as simple as creating a new frame and adding more elements to it. So this enables you to create ideas on the fly, collaboratively from a distance, so that in the case where there's multiple moving parts to a particular podcast episode you're interested in setting up, the platform enables you to get the work done despite challenges of distance. Right, so I'll then jump back into my presentation. Right, so now that you're done with platforms where you can iterate and ideate, you now look at the technical elements of how to podcast. And in this section, we'll be looking at some of the tools and equipment that you need to enable you to deliver on the podcast. But before we get to that, there's a video on Should I Make a Podcast? It's collaboratively done by the Google Podcast Group and PRX, available on YouTube. Check it out for ideas and inspiration on what considerations you make before you settle on creating a podcast. It's a very impactful resources, so check it out and feel free to ask any questions in case there's something that's not clear there. Right, so from an equipment perspective, depending on what level of expertise you have, the kind of resources that you have available, you want to go with the bare minimum, which is a computer, which allows you to record and store and edit your podcasts, and a microphone so that you're getting high quality sound. With the nature of podcasts, because the audio is by and large what your audiences have to go by a lot of times, you want to ensure that the audio is clear and can be played back without much challenge to the cognitive process of listening to what the podcast is. So as a minimum, you want to have a computer, you want to have a microphone as well that can capture the sound well. From a professional perspective, you can add a few elements such as a mixer. Perhaps you want to play some background music as well. So you have the option of having a mixer to go with the sound as well. And in the event that you do not have somebody who can create sounds for you, we have a few resources that you can select, rather that you can access with the view of getting free to use sounds. I'll quickly show us some of those. Right, so one of the platforms you can use is BBC Sound Effects. You can select a category of sounds that you're interested in, or perhaps you know the particular sound you want to look for. So you can type that in the search and then you can reset it. So a few options we have here, for example, say your podcast is talking about city life. So you have cars driving by, small elevators, running and stopping, cylinder engines. You have different sounds for different kind of equipments, and this goes with categories. So say something about travel, you have sounds from airports, say something about boys, for example. You have a variety of sounds that you can use. Perhaps you're telling a story about children or the likes. Another platform that you can use, or if I can quickly jump into that. Another platform that you can use is Freesound. It also allows you to pick based off of categorizations that you might be interested in looking for. So you have the sounds. You probably have forums in case you don't find the sound that you're looking for, but you'd want to ask if perhaps it's named in a way that you're not familiar with. But you can also search for the sounds available here. You can talk to people who create the sounds themselves, and in case you need any help, you also have the option for the help button. All right, so back into my presentation. Right, so once you have your transcripts, your sounds good to go, you now have the record option, and you can have a platform like Zencaster that allows you to record on the fly over the internet, so that you can also still do this from a distance, and it enables you to record interviews with the broadcast quality. Because one of the challenges sometimes of creating a podcast and you're working remotely is if, say, you're recording a phone call or you're talking to somebody who's using a different platform, the difference in quality sometimes has an effect on impacting how easily people follow a conversation on podcast. And therefore, platforms such as Zencaster enables you to seamlessly record studio quality audio that you can then use on your podcast. Other platforms you can use to record and edit your podcasts include Audacity, Ocean Audio, and HYA.io. Most of these are free. If you also have other professional tools such as Adobe Audition, which of course is a paid for service, you can also use those. It all just depends on the kind of output you want to have with respect to the podcast, with respect to frequency of production, with respect to the kind of timelines you're working with in a newsroom setting, which oftentimes is busy, and therefore you need the shortest turnaround time for products that you're putting out to market. For sound libraries, as I've mentioned, you have Freesound, you have BBC sound effects, and then you also have Audio Library Classic. So it just depends on the kind of sound you have, the kind of sound you want to use, whether you have time to make it, whether you would rather go with something that's already been created. So you have all these platforms that enable you to get the kind of sound you want. We also have other platforms. This is Cataphonies. It gives you playback for sounds around the world that have been recorded. So it also just adds to the element of what your podcast sounds like, depending on the kind of ambience you want to create, depending on the kind of context and setting that you're also discussing in the particular topics in your podcast. And I'll quickly jump into this and show you a few things about how it works. There we go. So this is what the map looks like. You can pretty much scroll through anywhere, zoom in, zoom out to get a better picture of available sound sources. Once you've identified what it is you want to go with, it's as simple as clicking. It gives you a pop-up that gives you options of sounds that are available from there. Then you can just click on one, it starts playback. And to control the sound levels, you have the pause button bottom left, and you can actually also change the volume. Say lower it, you only want it soft background, or if you want to measure the levels, you can also download the sound sequence or link to external notice. So it just depends on, again, the kind of output you want to create for the podcast that you're putting out on the day. I'll then now jump back into my presentation. Right, so from a transcription perspective, perhaps you want to convert your audio into text, and perhaps you want to have it as part of an article, or you want to create a description and probably include some of the text from the podcast itself. At Google, we have a voice typing tool that's integrated into Google Docs. I'll quickly show us how to access that. Right, so excuse the jumbled up page. I work on a sizable number of documents on any given day. You want to click on a blank document, then it will redirect you to a blank document. It's always a good idea to rename your documents just so they don't get lost in a sea of untitled documents. Trust me, that's never fun. I'll name this one podcast test. Give it a few seconds to save. It's now saved to my drive. So to access the voice typing tool, you'll click on the Tools tab. In the resultant drop-down, you look for the voice typing option. You'll click on it. So this box appears. You can move it around for ease of placement. And then you can click on that drop-down, select the particular language you want. I'll go with the Kenyan English. And then all you have to do to activate it is click on the gray button. So when it's activated, it changes color to red. And I'll show us that in a few seconds. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Full stop. New paragraph. We are currently in the third phase of online trainings for the Google News initiative. Full stop. New paragraph. So it works by listening to what it is that is being input in terms of voice and then converts it to text. Word of advice is sometimes you still have to go over the copy and ensure that it captures the correct transcription. In this case, I said we are, but it captured you are. So you can quickly edit out the errors and save your document as is needed. And it's quite a handy tool when it comes to transcriptions. And like I mentioned, perhaps you want to reference a section of a podcast in an actual article. So you can use Google Docs voice typing tool to be able to transcribe. So the other platform you can use is called Descript. Descript does a few more interesting things than the Google voice typing transcription tool, and I'll show us a demo of what that does shortly.
Like it or not, there's going to come a day when you think,
I should record this presentation.
We should do a podcast.
A pod what?
I should start a YouTube channel.
I should record my screen.
Hey guys.
Hey everyone.
And
we're pushing.
I've never actually. Oh my god.
We record a lot of stuff.
yep, you do. But before you share it,
Sent.
I don't like this.
you're going to want to edit it first.
Uh-oh.
But editing is
Hard, I know. Where do you even start, right? Well, I'll show you where to start. Meet Descript. It's a powerful new tool that makes editing easy. So easy that you'll want to edit videos.
nice. How does it
Work? Well, first you need some video or audio. If you've already got some, just drag it right into Descript. Wait for it.
Hey guys, welcome to my first YouTube video. Hopefully my little guys don't fall.
Whoa.
What?
Nah.
Yeah, it takes your audio and turns it into text. So when this happens,
All right guys, I'm going in.
Sweetie.
What?
Dinner.
I'm doing a thing, Mom!
you can cut it out like this.
Okay.
Oh.
How about that?
But get this, Descript can turn your text back into audio.
I'm pretty sure this is a first edition super rare creature kawaii. I was wrong. It's a 7th edition, more common than water creature kawaii.
It's called overdub. Just type what you meant to say right into Descript.
I'm pretty sure this is a 7th edition creature kawaii.
And for those who need it, Descript has a screen recorder built right in.
Hey everyone. We're pushing a big update today to our content management system.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop you right there. This is so boring.
I know.
Check it out.
Hey everyone. We're pushing
With a click, you can remove every kind of, like, and whatever the hell that is.
Hey everyone. We're pushing a big update today to our CMS.
Woo!
That's so cool.
Dang.
And with a few clicks, you can publish your project right to the web and easily share with anyone.
Damn, Jenny. I underestimated you.
And Descript is no slouch either, with support for things like non-destructive multi-track precision editing,
No.
titles, transitions, and keyframe animation,
No.
audio mixing and mastering tools, even exporting your project to other pro apps.
Woo!
And get this, you and your collaborators can work in the app at the same time.
No.
So when you capture media,
Pickle, you mean green?
No, Mom!
make sure you edit it in Descript.
I think it's Descript.
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 So as you've seen from that demo, the platform is Buildcast creation up to correct that. It does this through artificial intelligence and sampling of voices so that it can pick a bit of the flow of your speech and make a correction that does not sound like it was dubbed after the fact. So that's one of the reasons why it is quite a robust platform that's handy for creating podcasts. Right, so back into my presentation we go. So how do you manage your podcast? You've collected your material, rather you started from ideation, you've recorded all your material, you have your transcripts ready, you have the recording ready to go. So now all you need to do is manage and evaluate the kind of progress you're making with your podcast. So you can use that, you can manage that using Google Podcasts. So Google Podcasts was created in 2018 and it's home to multiple podcasts. You can use it as a podcast playback tool available for both Android and iOS phones. So you can download that and it offers you a variety of podcasts. And you can also use this to discover your own podcast if you've published it to the web. You also have Google Podcast Manager. What Podcast Manager does is it tracks what's happening with your podcast up to the second. It gives you insights on what works best and what you might need to change. And I'll quickly show us the screen so that you can see what it looks like. Right, so it gives you insights to power your podcast, and it sees what works by the second. It gives you these real-time insights, and it also helps you to understand listening habits so that you are better guided by statistics in the event that you're making any changes to how you serve your podcasts. You're also able to reach listeners across Google platforms through a host of smart devices and other applications that are available. So all you need to do is visit the platform and claim your podcast to get started. It walks you through 4 steps before you can then start to publish to your podcast. So it will ask you to enter the podcast RSS feed, preview the feed, send verification codes, and verify ownership. And it's advisable that you're sharing RSS feed for a podcast whose access email address you actually have. So that's Podcast Manager. Like I've said, gives you insights, helps you understand what's working down to the second, and also helps you understand listener habits as you go. So back to my presentation. Right, so to learn more about how to use podcasts, head over to g.co/news training. We have a course on podcasts as well as other areas of interest from a news and storytelling perspective. The courses are thematic, so you can go through them fairly quickly or at your own pace. They range anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. And at the end of each course, you have a quiz that you can go through. If you score 100% in the quiz, you get to download a certificate for that particular course. And we are regularly updating the courses that are available there. Right now, we have up to 90 modules. So there's something for everyone. And as I've mentioned, they're thematic. So you get to address, you get to go through a course that is of particular interest to you. Right, so if you have any questions on trainings or tools, feel free to reach out to newslabsupport@google.com. You can also use the same email if you're interested in having tailored lessons for your individual newsrooms. We'll be happy to set that up with you and take you through the courses that you feel you'd like the best, you'd like help with. So I've been your facilitator for today, Eugene Okumu, again, teaching fellow for the Sub-Saharan Africa region. Check out our Twitter feed for the next online trainings that we'll be having. And we hope to get feedback from you on what works for you, as well as whether you'd like any assistance in any of the courses that you might come across in our courses platform. That's g.co/news training. Thank you so much for making the time and sticking with us through this live stream. And we look forward to seeing you again. From me, it's good evening and enjoy the rest of your week.